Hopefully everybody can see my screen now.
Yep.
So I'll say thank you. I've been working with James and James now in the product manager role for the last 12 months. And today I want to talk to you about the exciting journey we've had over the last 10 years, the tech solution that we've built to try and bring the world of fulfillment in the e-commerce world into 2020, but also how the business has transformed during this time. My background personally before James and James was still in product development, but across financial services, government services, and employee benefits. So the world of logistics was an exciting new challenge personally. I'd like to start by just setting the scene, because to give the idea and vision of how we've scaled, I think it's interesting to see where we came from. Tell you a bit about our company culture, but most importantly, I suppose for this group would be the technology that we've built and the process that sits behind it that helps achieve customers' orders for those e-retailers, which, as we all know, is a booming business right now. But also, like many other businesses, 2020 has been extraordinary for us and has given us some challenges to face into that we didn't expect. So I'd like to talk through about how we've faced into those to date. And to finish off, just to give a look ahead to what's going on with us longer and shorter term. So where did it all begin? Believe it or not, it started with selling honey. The two Jameses finished university and they were working for a honey business where they were fulfilling orders, believe it or not, using post-it notes, spreadsheets, and lots of running around. And then one day they had an epic number of sales, and it was due to the fact that every customer who ordered that day had their orders duplicated. I guess there was 2 of every post-it note flitting around the office. And rather than sending them back, they called all of the customers, and thankfully they took the second item, or however many, at a discount. And so this did result in the biggest ever sales. But it got them both thinking, why isn't there something technical that can help solve this process and this problem? And with that in mind, their original plan was always to build a software technical solution that would help the fulfillment logistics problem. But in time, they realized that doing that alone wasn't going to be enough, and they needed to build a proof of concept where this software could be seen to be used in anger. And that's where the first fulfillment center was born in Cambridge. And since then, we've not stopped still. In fact, we're one of the fastest growing companies headquartered in Europe. And since our days in Cambridge, we've now moved to a much larger fulfillment center in Brackmills in Northampton. We opened our first center in Columbus in the US. We've won 2 awards from the Queen Awards in Innovation and International Trade. And most recently, I suppose the important part that's allowing us to push on now, was we've recently completed our first funding round with LDC as our investor to the tune of £11 million, which is opening up vast opportunities for us at exactly the right time. And the biggest change is already happening, because we are in the process of moving to a much bigger site, also on Brackmills in Northampton. And by February, March next year, that should be complete. So as we continue to grow, we've had to keep driving ourselves forward. Scaling up people to deliver the increase in order volumes is one thing, and is possibly quite easy compared to the others. But how we transform the business from being a startup to scale up to then a multi-site business, which is where we are today, is a much bigger challenge. So what we've tried to do is take a good look at the way we've worked historically and what's made us successful. So really, it's as they say, that trying to keep that DNA that started off in Cambridge with 2 or 3 people, but trying to expand that across hundreds. So as a result, we developed a simple and challenging mission that everybody in the business can easily understand and get behind to help us achieve. And as it says on the screen there, it's to deliver 100 million orders to happy customers. But to help us do this, again, we've had to think hard about what is that culture, what's took us from where we are today, and how do we make sure we keep that because it's been so successful. So we challenge. We don't accept the norm, and we challenge ourselves every day in our thinking in an open and friendly manner. People are encouraged to challenge each other's thinking, offer alternative solutions to problems, and simply not accept things being normal. And we try to find these solutions. It could be that it's not always a technology solution, but a manual process. So don't take things for granted that it's always got to be somebody coding somewhere that's going to solve the problem. And to support both create and challenge, we've built our company on not just doing something the way it's always been done. This may seem obvious. However, we identified in the e-commerce fulfillment world, there are some processes that are being done industry-wide just because that's the way it's always been. A good example of this is how mobile phones and their associated SIM card is fulfilled. But that's a story for another day because I think I could talk for 20 minutes on that alone. And finally, we deliver. We do what we say we're going to do, ultimately to delight our clients and our end customers. We do try to think really hard about things and plan how we can execute them. We commit to them, and most importantly, we deliver them. And in my world of product development, everybody's my customer, from the operators in the fulfillment center to our clients and the end customers who place the order. And for me, it's quite difficult because we don't have a direct relationship with those end customers, but we still have to try to ensure that we give them a great experience on behalf of our clients. As mentioned before, we recently started to operate in 2 sites in the UK, and we're just finishing off our refit to move to Northampton 2 in the coming months. This will allow us to grow in terms of clients and volume, but also critically, it's the teams that make it happen. And we're already going through a large recruitment drive, and I believe for peak this year, we're looking to bring 150 people in. But then longer term, across our office and fulfillment staff, we're looking to employ another 200 people before 2023. You can imagine that scaling such a move from Northampton 1 to number 2 is big anyway. Then imagine trying to do it during peak. Then throw on top of that the increased demands because of the COVID pandemic. And it's been no mean feat and has required a collaborative approach across our operational and technical teams during pretty much the whole of 2020. In addition to the UK, I said we've got our site in the US, which has allowed us to grow with our e-retailers who have either a presence in the US or do need to ship large numbers over there. It makes it much simpler for us to work with them. And like the UK, that is seeing rapid growth at the moment, and it looks like being a bumper peak for them. And no presentation at the moment would be complete without mentioning the B word, so I'll try not to, but we are looking at partnerships and locations in Europe to help us deliver our demand over that side of the water as well, should it be needed. And now for the technical bit, hopefully not a sales pitch, really more of an insight into how our technology has been built and works. In the simplest terms, it's a platform consisting of 3 parts. They're all built in-house, but we do have integrations outside of that. ControlPort is our warehouse management system that's used consistently across all of our fulfillment centers that gives us that one view of everything, and our clients have that view as well. ControlPort is where they see the information, and that's our client order management system. And Viewport is the end customer bit that can track and return orders, and you're probably all familiar with these as you've been buying things online over the past few years. The core of our platform is cloud-based and driven by API integration, which means that we can change things quickly. It's designed to limit the amount of human intervention required throughout the order journey. So there's no need for people to write on post-it notes. There's no need for people to fill in spreadsheets anymore. And to make it all happen, quickly and easy, we do integrate with all of the main shopping channels, so Shopify, eBay, and carriers, DHL, Royal Mail, etc. But the one thing that was coming across from our clients was around also passing information between us and their back-end systems. So we also now integrate through APIs to provide product data and shipping notifications back and forth. Plus, we send data around inventories and orders back to them real time, so they can see what's happening either through ControlPort or directly into their back-end systems. Command port was the big challenge really when the Jameses set out from the honey business to where we are today. It was, how do you design and build a WMS that can work inside a chaotic warehouse? And when I say chaotic, it really has to be seen to be believed. And chaos isn't bad. In our world, it's what we want. Everything has its place, but the more chaotic, the better for us, because it reduces pick errors. The technology then brings this chaos back together. We do this through intelligent pick routes that take the operators on the most efficient routes around the building to pick multiple orders at once. And to mitigate against the risk of the wrong items being delivered to the wrong customers, every product has a barcode scan 4 times through its pick, pack, dispatch process, which makes sure the right thing is going to the right customer. As I said, orders are received directly from the shopping channels, and every product that a customer wishes to sell with us is logged in our system, so we know exactly what it looks like. That's really important to us because we need to ensure that we can use the most appropriate packaging, which is driving down costs for our clients through the product dimensions they give us. But also knowing the size of those products allows us to achieve the best carrier rates for our clients. So the focus being is on how we can reduce the cost for them at every step of the process. In order for us to get these best rates, though, we do need to have relationships with our carriers. So many of them we integrate directly with, such as DHL, but in other cases we use aggregators such as Metapack. But one of our biggest challenges was, how do we do this at speed? As consumers, we've all become rather impatient now and we want things straight away. So how do we make sure that we can get our orders out the building as quickly as possible, but through using a carrier aggregator system that will still give our clients the best price? So because we know how an order is made up, we know how many items are in that order, we know the size of the items, and we know where they're going to. So because of that, we can pre-allocate the packing label, the carrier service, before it's even picked and packed. That way we can handle any exceptions during the fulfillment process, where we can relabel it if the system identifies a better, cheaper service before it goes out at dispatch. Again, ultimately, this is giving our clients the best possible rate for that order. Our shiny front end, we call it ControlPort. And here we've tried to solve a multitude of client pain points and achieve user goals that we've identified that historically haven't been in other fulfillment software packages. The primary function is going to receive and show progress of their orders, really in a self-serve solution. We want to drive out as much manual work as possible for our clients. And as I've mentioned a couple of times, this is achieved through API integrations with the shopping channels. But it doesn't take away that need for clients to be able to do manual orders or manual tasks if needed to directly in the platform. Clients can also manage their shopping channel integrations quickly and change any preferences they may have over using specific carriers. So it is giving them that real-time ability to change things in their business whilst automating as much as possible. We display our order status and tracking on a really simple to read dashboard that again also highlights any order exceptions that the client needs to take urgent action on. This ensures that only matters that need their attention stand out, helping them to meet their customer expectations of a great service. Secondary to helping clients manage their business more effectively, through the use of the data that we collect and we hold during the order process. We share with them insight into how each of their products are performing, how their stock and inventory is looking, ensuring that they have enough to fulfill their orders without having vast amounts of stock just in case they need it. And I think that's the biggest difference between us and a warehouse, is that we do see ourselves as a fulfillment center, so it's goods in, goods out. We try to encourage our clients again to sit on as little stock as possible, because again, it's helping them drive down their cost by not having to pay those storage costs. Over time, the insight can also help clients manage how much stock they need to produce or procure based on order history, seasonality, and any planned campaigns that they may have. And finally, in ControlPort, it allows clients to audit the performance of their carriers, enabling them to select the most time and cost-effective shipping services for the types of products they sell and the destinations that they're going to. The final piece to the jigsaw is the front end for the buying customer. It's a customizable to allow for client logos, branding, etc., to help deliver a consistent brand from our client's e-commerce site to our back-end tracking returns platform. In addition to us emailing the end customer when their order is dispatched, they can also track the progress of their order through Viewport from store to door. This insight removes the need for customers to contact the client for updates, something that many clients require to ensure that they're given an excellent customer experience, but also reducing the demand on their customer service teams. Over recent years, we've also seen the importance increase around returns. So we also offer this feature within Viewport, which makes it quick and simple for customers to return unwanted items. They can even do this using a prepaid for print at home or print at post office service, where they can drop off their items at over 12,500 locations. As I said, this is another feature that's becoming more and more expected by the consumer. With these returns, the client can configure the list of reasons for why they're being sent back. This gives them greater insight into any trends, and it may highlight issues, for example, product QA or sizing issues for clothing products. Hopefully, that whistle-stop view of the three platforms gives you some idea of the pain points and the goals that we've tried to achieve that aren't typical in a normal e-commerce fulfillment solution. Before I finish and move on to any questions, I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about what's been an extraordinary 2020 so far. As a company, we're already going through our growth transmission. Then in March, as we all know, things took an even bigger turn and we had to face into these new business challenges, and lots of people had to address them too. How do we make our fulfillment centres and office COVID secure? How do we continue to offer the same levels of service to our clients and their customers in a very different world? During lockdown 1, we saw order volumes roughly double versus the same period in 2019. As more consumers moved to online shopping and more clients moved away from wholesale to selling direct to the customer. In short, for the duration of 2020, our volumes are typically what we saw at peak in 2019. It's a huge challenge for us to face into for an entire 12 months. To help us to continue to deliver, we've introduced a multi-shift approach across all of our fulfillment centre teams to work in secure bubbles, meaning we have fewer operators in the centre at any one time, allowing us to social distance whilst we pick, pack and dispatch. We've also introduced an infrared fever screening for all of our staff as they come and go from the building, as well as social distance office layouts. And each team has specific days where they go into the building, because we thought it was important to make sure that we still maintain that connection with our fulfillment centre staff whilst many of us work from home. But what will lockdown 2 look like during the busiest time of year of peak? That's our biggest challenge. But we're really confident in what we've put in place already, along with the technology and the scalability of it and the process that it underpins, that we're going to achieve these challenges and ensure that we continue to meet our clients and ultimately consumers' expectations as we head into the rush before Christmas. So looking ahead, even with everything going on, we still need to look ahead at where we move to for the next phase of James and James. The move to the lovely bright green new fulfilment centre that hopefully anyone will have seen if they're driving around Brackmills is just the first step. Next, on a technology front, we need to build in more automation to that site, to the pick-pack process, so that we can improve our productivity further. And that's a big leap forward for us in our solution to add that automation feature in. We're looking at the processes that we have already built to see where can we make changes. And the one that we're looking at the moment is around goods coming into our building. So how can we speed up getting those goods from the back door onto the pick face, which means we can get orders again out the door as quickly as possible. We're looking at what other insight can we give our clients to help them run their businesses in this changing world. And also, as the e-commerce continues to grow, the expectation of the end customer grows with it, especially around, as I touched on before, this returns process. So for me in 2021, I'm going to be focusing on this a lot to try and understand what the expectation of the customer is and what level of service clients are happy to offer them, and then to try and design an innovative solution that can balance both sides of the retailer-customer equation, one that's going to be quite difficult, I think, as customers demand more and more. And the really exciting thing for me is how can we take that vision of the Jameses back in the honey selling days of building this technological solution and deliver it as a logistics as a service model. So take it out of the original proof of concept that's become James and James, but move it into that model where we can license the platform to franchisees, which enables us to scale and grow globally to achieve even more order volume that we're seeing at the moment. All in all, 2021 is going to be extremely busy, and I'm sure the years ahead will be the same. Thank you for listening. If there's any questions, I'll hand back to you, Richard.
Thanks very much, Stephen. Yeah, really insightful there. I've got some questions, and there's had some questions come in as well, so I'll dive straight into those. You've talked about how quickly you've grown, you know, in terms of the orders, doubling the orders this year to last year, the new staff that you're hiring this year. How do you ensure the team's skill development keeps up with the advances in technology?
Really, really good question. One thing we've had to focus on is our people team. So we've been growing our people team over that period. And again, they've brought with it new ideas around training and development. But also part of our benefits package we offer, we will do like-for-like funding and matching for anybody who wants to learn a new skill, learn something different. We will match the time that they require to learn that skill plus the cost of it, or a mixed match of both. I can only speak on behalf of the development team, but again, we ensure that we give them that personal development time to be able to learn new skills. But also, we ask them to say, as we said, challenge the norm and go out there and look for new technologies, and we're brave. We try things and we learn fast. We're not scared to get things wrong. And I think that's been with James and James from the beginning. It's something which is the part of the DNA that we try to still instill in the business.
And Mark will be talking about, in his presentation, about e-learning platforms. Is e-learning something that is big within James and James?
Not hugely that I'm aware of. I know some of our development teams, they've got different technology learning platforms that they use, but I don't know more widely than that, unfortunately, but I'm sure I can have a conversation with him.
Thank you. A question from Rob Purdy. Stephen, operationally, do you use your platform to do everything, or do you integrate with Salesforce or CRM, front office, or N-Suite for ERP back office?
We do. We integrate with Salesforce within our client services team. We use Xero within our finance team. And then at the moment, it's something I want to look at further. We use Grow for all our reporting and data requirements. But other than that, and the integrations with our carriers, other than that, everything else is inbuilt.
Thank you. question from Simon Jones. You've probably touched on this, but he makes the point. He works for a company that makes the collaborative robots for e-commerce fulfillment, which is part of Shopify. What kind of technology do you think will make the most impact on e-commerce fulfillment operations in the next few years? And is robots something you're looking at? I know there's a trial about to hit Northampton. I think Tesco are going to be doing it. They're doing it in Milton Keynes now, the robots for delivery. Is that anything that you've started to look at?
We are starting to look at everything to do with automation. Once we move into our new site, the size of it gives us that opportunity to do that. Robotics isn't something that we've talked about yet. I think the first step is for us to introduce automation. We are looking at automated labeling as well. The big challenge we've got there, as I mentioned, is around this pre-allocation of the labels, because whatever solution you have, if you're going to automate the label being stuck on the package, it has to be able to work quick enough to go away and talk to all of the carriers and aggregators to bring that best price back as quickly as possible. So I think once we've got over that challenge, robotics will definitely be the next thing. And we are, say, introducing pick towers and different approaches to how we can move more quickly. And I'm sure, I say 2021, 2022, robotics will be on the agenda at some point.
Yeah. Now, just a follow-up question from Rob Purdy. You did mention about returns, a huge issue of returns. And I think I read about ASOS, the amount of returns that they get coming back into them. Rob's saying with continued growth means that this will be a focus for the supply chain, the returns. Any thoughts on how James and James are considering this element of the chain?
Yes, it's a big focus for me. We're looking at all sorts of alternatives, such as customer paid returns. How, if a client wants to offer or request a small fee to send something back, I'm not sure it'll go down too well with consumers, but also around the fact of the whole model of taking payment before goods are even purchased. It's one that's really off the wall, that you don't take the final payment from the end customer until, say, 14 days after the goods have been with them, so that they can return it. This frees up the customer's cash to buy with that retailer again, if possible. These are all blue sky ideas that may not fly, but I think there's got to be something really innovative out there, because we've pretty much as an industry mastered the speed that we can get the goods to the door now, but it's how can we then do something really clever with that returns process. And if anyone's got any good ideas out there, I'd happily listen to them. So I think there's got to be lots of opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Kind of a wide question, but John Henderson asked, where do you see the e-commerce fulfillment market in 3 years?
Cool. I wouldn't even care to start to think at the moment. It's a huge question to answer. It's only going in one direction. It's only going to get more and more competitive. There's going to be more and more demands by the consumer. I think the high street is going to change considerably. What that looks like for us is fantastic growth, but what exactly, I wouldn't know. It's too big a question, I think.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's interesting though, because I read a piece, Jeff Bezos, Amazon, he said everybody asked him that all the time. What are the new things in 5 years' time? What will you be doing? And he said the one question that nobody ever asked him is, what are the things that you do now that you'll be doing in 5 years' time? Because that's what he focuses on, and make sure they just do that much better, much cheaper. And that's what he focuses on.
And I think that's where we are with regards to returns. I think we know there's something there, and that's where I want to focus for the next year. And if we look back 4 or 5 years, or probably when James and Jay started, would we have seen e-commerce being where it is today? I don't think we would have done. So if only I could tell.
Yeah, you'd be rich.
I'd be rich, yeah.
Tony, was there anything you wanted to ask Stephen? If you just take yourself off mute, yeah, bro.
No, I mean nothing specific. I mean it was interesting to hear, because I guess I could relate to some of the solutions that Stephen's and what James and James are looking to provide. I mean, I believe there are some massive challenges out there in the e-commerce world. I think what we're seeing now is just an acceleration of it. I think nobody believed it was ever going to not grow. I just think it's suddenly grown at a much faster rate than we anticipated. I think there's there are some really good points there, and we could talk for hours and hours about returns. You know, and again, I'm just tapping into my experience, but the whole returns process, I think you're almost trying to play with the psyche of the customer. What would make the customer be more responsible? Because of course, a lot what people tend to forget at times is the impact on the environment in these situations. You know, you say, as from experience, and I'll be careful what I say because I'm sitting indoors, but you know, if someone orders 3 pairs of shoes but only wants one, then inevitably the other 2 are going to go back at some point. And so yeah, so not a specific question, but I think an endorsement of those significant challenges. And I think another one, thinking about the environment, is the whole last mile subject as well. And again, as a separate subject, that last mile delivery to the customer, it needs to be so much more thought put into that, and the way that can be managed. But no, really interesting. Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you.
Stephen, do you have like an R&D department there that are always looking at innovations and what's next?
No, it's something since I've come in that we're looking to do. So like I said, we've took the business to where it was, and then the growth was so rapid then. So I am the start of the product department. We're starting to grow them, and over the next 12 months, both our technology and product team won't look anything like it does now. The investment is going to allow us partly to do that, but it's something we knew we needed to do anyway. I'm an impatient man, so I need things to move rapidly, and I think the market is saying that. As Tony said, we expected e-commerce to boom, but the pandemic has just accelerated that, which obviously for us is good news. But it's, you know, it's that balance of growth at the right pace so you don't suddenly explode. And so far, we've done a good job of controlling that.
Just a final question. We've got a couple of students from University of Northampton listening to this. They're on the MSc, the Masters Computing course. They've got to find placements for next year. They're asking, have you got any placement roles, or do you take placement students for 12 months?
It could well be something that we look at. We're in the process of bringing in a new CTO to head up our technology part of the business. I'm sure he or she will have lots of different ideas. So if they send their details over, I'm sure I can keep them on file when he or she is in place.
Brilliant. I'll advise them to keep following you on social media and LinkedIn. And then another question, Richard Cook, what's your approach to carbon zero and sustainability?
Another good question, not one I can possibly answer myself. We do use recycled packaging. We look to reduce the number of collections that we need from our site, from our carriers, to ensure that we are reducing that as much as possible. And again, we work with our clients when it comes to the delivery of goods to us. So we try to get them to manage that, to reduce the number of times they need to come to us, because it's in our interest as well. But other than that, especially on the building front, it'll be a question for my colleagues, but I can happily get back.
Just thinking, could that be a combination with the returns problem? Whether you put the campaign out there around helping the environment, you know, whether returns could be part of that and the social responsibility of customers? Yeah,
I think it's very much is true. I think I echo Tony's point that we've become it's been a bit easy, hasn't it? We'll order 3 sizes of something and we disregard the fact that's got to get back to wherever, the ones that we're sending back, and we've almost dismissed it. So the psychology behind it, to try and get people to think from an environmental point of view, could be something that we tackle, and that's the one takeaway for me on this, is how can we sort of address that.
Keep putting the questions in. This is an anonymous one. Does the term free delivery undermine the value and true cost of fulfillment?
Good question. Not one I've ever thought of. I suppose nothing's ever free to anybody. Somebody's paying for it somewhere. And I suppose you could argue the same for the return, isn't it? The free returns process, because the client offers a prepaid label. I guess it's down to the client if they choose to make that payment. Nothing's free to us. It's free to the consumer, but I said the client's paying for it. So yeah, it possibly does. If you make it too easy, will people do it? Again, it's the psychology behind it, I suppose. It's a very good question.
Yeah. I won't ask you any more questions, Stephen. Brilliant. That's great. Great interaction. Great questions today. If you've got any further questions, James and James, they're on LinkedIn, social media, on Twitter. Luke's on there today, so yeah, follow up any questions on there. So thanks very much, Stephen. That was really great.
Cheers.